To say it simply, EarthBound is a pretty weird game. The people, the creatures, the world itself, just about every single aspect of this magnificent game has a bit of quirk to it. Come to think of it, the only normal part of this game comes in the form of the items. Instead of battle axes and bows, we have baseball bats and swords. And instead of potions and elixirs, we have steak and good old-fashioned burgers. However, if there is one item in particular that breaks this pattern, it's the Franklin badge. What is this thing? Why is it so important? That, my honeys, is what we're gonna talk about today. So buckle up, everybody. It's time to talk about the Franklin badge. Alrighty, where do we begin? Well, let's try to figure out what exactly this thing is. The Franklin badge is an item that reflects a whole bunch of different PSI attacks and shoots them right back at the user, dealing some pretty nasty damage. Think of it like Fox or Falco's reflector in Smash Bros. And speaking of Smash Bros., as I'm sure you all know, this little guy makes an appearance in the legendary Nintendo franchise created by Masahiro Sakurai and his team. The Franklin badge is one of the many items you can pick up during your battles, and it behaves just like it does in the Mother series, reflecting all sorts of projectiles back at your foes. However, through the trophy gallery, we can learn just a little bit more about the Franklin badge. This is what Brawl's trophy description reads. A badge you can put on to gain the ability to reflect all projectiles. It has the exact same effect as other reflectors in the game, like the one Fox uses. In Mother, it was used to deflect PK Beam when fighting the Starman Jr., and in EarthBound, it was used to counter thunder attacks. The lightning bolt on this badge is proof of its capacity. Its importance and usefulness made a deep impression on players. And here we are with Smash 4's description. While not the most flashy of accessories, the Franklin badge is incredibly useful. When wearing it, any projectiles launched your way will be reflected harmlessly off of you. There is no downside, so grab this as soon as it appears. Don't get too confident though, the bonus doesn't last long. And as a bit of a side note, in the original Mother, if you click the info icon on the menu screen, the description of the Franklin badge says that none other than Benjamin Franklin himself used this badge as protection while he experimented with lightning. Huh, who would have thought? So yeah, that's the Franklin badge. A pretty useful item if I do say so myself. So how about we take a look at this bad boy in action, starting from the very beginnings, EarthBound beginnings. While the Franklin badge becomes more integral to the story in future titles, that doesn't mean it isn't useful in the game that started it all. Your first ever contact with the badge takes place very early on in the game. A girl by the name of Pippi has gone missing in the cemetery south of Podunk, and the mayor insists that you go and find her. It just so happens that Podunk's mayor is up for re-election soon, and finding the missing girl under his time in office would look pretty sweet to the rest of the town. But whatever, we aren't concerned with all that grown-up stuff. All we want to do is save our friend. So, Nintendo goes down to the cemetery, beats the non-living crap out of some baddies, and escorts Pippi to safety. The mayor, who is just so happy to see this girl rescued, gives Nintendo $100 for his hard work. Kinda shortchanges my boy here, but the next gift makes it all worth it. If you return to Pippi's house after talking to the mayor, she'll be waiting outside for you. And if you answer her questions correctly, she'll give you the Franklin badge in return for saving her life. This really made me smile on my first playthrough. It always struck me as a cute little moment between these two. A hint of young love or something. I don't know. But yeah, that's the story of our first Franklin badge. But I want to hear more. So let's say we jump right in to the next one. EarthBound, my first taste of the Mother series, and one hell of a first impression. Like the land before it, Eagle Land is no stranger to some pretty interesting stories, and this just so happens to be another one of them. A few hours into your journey will lead you to the Happy Village, home of the Happyism cult. These guys worship the color blue of all things, and follow the orders of the cult's leader, the car painter. I see what you did there. Really, the only thing these guys do is paint things blue, and you know, that doesn't sound too bad. I mean, look at this cow. They gave this cute little guy a nice paint job. How bad could they really be? Well, it turns out that one of Polestar Preschool's best and brightest, Paula, has been kidnapped by none other than the Happyists. And since it's our job to save those in need, we've been hot on their trail trying to find her. Fortunately, our investigations pay off pretty quickly. To the north of the village lies a wooden cabin, the place where Paula is being held. Once you go talk to her, she tells you that she always knew you would save her, and gives you a nice little gift, which is, you guessed it, the Franklin badge. So just like before, the badge was given to us as somewhat of a thank you for saving them. But unlike the previous game, we actually kinda need this sucker to move on. In order to truly save Paula from these guys, we need to disband them, and what better way to do so than by confronting the car painter himself. There's just one problem though. This guy has some pretty devastating electric attacks that would pretty much fry any 13-year-old kid. But luckily for us, we've got a bit more protection on our side. By letting nature take its course, and by that I mean letting the badge do its thing, we finally free the car painter from the clutches of the Mani Mani statue, and free Paula from her cabin captivity. Personally, this was one of my favorite parts of the game. I loved the feeling of saving Paula from the hands of the Happy Village, and watching as her gift completely blew shit up. Getting the girl and a pocket-sized electric blast reflector? I'd say that's a pretty sweet deal. So those were two pretty lighthearted and fun stories, all centered around the Franklin badge. So how about we crank that good old sadness meter up to 11, and jump into the final story. This one kinda jumps around a bit, but I'll try my best to keep it concise for you. Now, if you've seen some of my previous videos on this game, you'll know that Mother 3 utilizes its sad, dark, and depressing themes to its full potential. And this story holds true to those ideals. In the beginning of Chapter 7, Lucas and Boney take a bittersweet detour to visit their mother. Surprisingly, Tazmilly's gravekeeper, Napolite, is there to greet you. Napolite gives Lucas a pretty heartbreaking man-to-man about Lucas's father, Flint, and how the fact that Lucas grew up to be such a strong young man is the only saving grace Flint has. He then gives Lucas the Courage Badge, a good luck charm that Flint himself has kept with him since he was a boy. Later on, Lucas and the gang come across some Mr. Saturns in Saturn Valley. Once you trip out on some coffee with them, you know, the usual Mr. Saturn brew, one of the little guys nabs your Courage Badge and promises to make it all shiny for you. This same Mr. Saturn then shows up later in the game, who has finished polishing your good luck charm. Can you guess what it turned out to be? So, okay, why did I just explain all that? Well, the reason is because this Franklin badge soon becomes one of Mother 3's biggest plot points. Throughout your adventure, you will come into contact with the mysterious masked man, Porky's loyal servant, and his quote-unquote adorable little monster. This guy's a serious ass kicker, using a sword, a mega buster, PSI attacks, and most notably, a wicked lightning attack that can pretty much insta-kill your entire party. But if we've learned anything from before, it's that Franklin badges plus lightning equals bad news for the bad guys. Your Franklin badge saves you quite a bit throughout your adventure. It works alright, but maybe it works a bit too well. Near the final stretch of the game, we find ourselves face to face with the humanoid Chimera. Learning from his past mistakes, the masked man fires a bolt of lightning so strong that it renders everyone unconscious. Everyone but the badge's owner, Lucas. The two go through an agonizing fight, with the masked man not letting up. But through the comforting words of his mother, the masked man comes to his senses and frees himself from his mechanical shackles, becoming the boy he was always meant to be. But with this clarity comes a realization, a self-awareness, a conscience that is too much to bear. The boy then takes aim at Lucas, firing a lethal bolt of lightning, which then reflects off of his Franklin badge. And I'm sure you can figure out the rest. The Franklin badge is quite the item. The power it holds, the stories it carries with it, and the fact that it's meant to protect the ones that mean the most to us. It may not be the flashiest of accessories, but it keeps you safe, and it will always be there, ready to protect you from anything that comes your way. Just as long as it's a lightning attack anyway. And with that, I think we'll call it a day. Take it easy, everybody, and as always, keep on keeping on.